Matthew Oliver here from House of Oliver. Thank you so much for joining with us. You are on the YouTube channel where we are doing videos, interviews, keeping you informed, updated on what is going on in Placer County. And as Placer County goes, so goes California. And as California goes, so goes the world. I don't know. That might be too far. Maybe a stretch too far.
Let's make it happen.
Hey, let's make it. I'm in. Take a moment while you're doing this. Stop what you're doing. It's not as important as everything that's going to happen during this video. So subscribe, like, share, tell a friend, tell a neighbor. Grab something delicious to drink while we are talking about things that are important. I am here with the infamous Jonathan Zacherson. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Thank you for having me.
And you guys might not know this because there are people behind the scenes that have done things in the state of California that have fought for our freedoms, fought for our rights. They've got our kids going back to school, got our schools open, got them playing sports. And you're one of those for the last couple of years that have been working so hard on behalf of our students and our kids. Tell them a little bit about what you've been doing.
Yeah, sure. Like you said, a lot of hard work goes into it, and it's not just me. There's a lot of other people that are doing work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was frustrated when schools shut down right away. I saw the devastation it was causing my kids. And, you know, some of them already were struggling a little bit. And so once the shutdowns hit, I felt like it was rock bottom. So I started advocating to reopen our schools here locally and found out that it really wasn't, for the most part, it wasn't, my kids, school board members or our county, supervisors that were the issue. A lot of it was the state was driving it and the policies coming from Newsom. And that's when I founded Reopen California Schools in June of 2020. Naively thinking that, if we just have this massive rally at the Capitol.
June of 2020, it seems so far away. Can you believe how long we've been in this mess?
Yeah, and it's a long time. I mean, I can't believe it. In some ways, it feels longer.
Yeah.
Right. Because you devote so much time to some of the stuff, and unfortunately, we had to. Right.
Yeah. Well, our kids matter.
Yeah.
So you launched Reopen the schools.
Yep.
And that wasn't just, I know you did a lot for Placer County, but you did a ton up and down the state. You were finding information, getting the stats. But you guys did a rally. You've done a couple of things. How did that go? Yeah.
So in July of 2020, we held a rally. And that was right after Newsom decided to go to that blueprint and shut down like 99% of schools in California based off that. And we had close to 1,000 people there, but there was no media. I didn't really know what I was doing other than promoting it on social media, and didn't alert the media, didn't write press release. It was on a Saturday, and so it was nice that I got to meet a lot of great people. That's where I met Mary Barkey. She's in the Orange County Board of Education. I met a few other great folks. Met Josh Hoover there. He's running for Assembly now.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. And he was one of our first speakers at that, or one of our speakers at that very first rally.
Nice.
Met a lot of great people that day. So you start connecting, right? As more and more people get involved and more people are frustrated. I met Scott Davison in San Diego. He's running for school board down there.
Nice.
He was part of a lawsuit that sued Newsom over some of the arbitrary rules that kept many schools closed. And
Newsom had so many arbitrary rules that he chose not to follow, but wanted everybody else to.
Yeah. So there's lots of different organizations, right? You mentioned Let Them Breathe earlier. So a lot of groups out there that formed because of this. Educate, Advocate, California Civic Governance, Parent Power. All these different parent groups have formed that were kind of, loosely organized and worked together to solve some of these issues.
I think the fear is that people think, our schools are open now, right? Our kids are back to school. Yay, everything's great. There's no problems. But there are still threats against our students right now at this very moment that we're still in a state of emergency. At any point in time, they can pull a trigger and decide, mask them up, shut it down. But more than that, they're taking away choice. They're forcing things with our kids. What are some of the big issues that you see facing our students right now that people are maybe not aware of, but they should be aware of because these are real and should be talked about, advocated for, and for students?
No, good question. I think COVID and masks and school closures and masks in particular got a lot of attention and drove a lot of people to pay attention to some of these issues and look at the governance that was there that really wasn't representing them.
Sure.
Some people may not recognize, though, that it's not just the school board members right? You could have well-intended school board members, but they don't have the resources or knowledge to help fight some of these.
Sure.
And so kind of at the tail end, that was what was fantastic about, seeing some of the issues on mask. It was beyond just the mask issues that we saw school board members across California connecting, working together, sharing legal resources, sharing resolutions to be able to say, hey, this is how we fight this together. And so because of that, I formed recently, just about a month ago, Students First California, which its goal is to help aid some of that down the road.
Nice. So it's not just fighting the masks. It's about putting power back locally to parents, to school boards, which they elect. And I'm going to tell you, this is the most exciting thing. You are like leading, I think, one of my favorite things that are going on right now. I get to go around spreading hope everywhere I go because people are like, oh, California, oh, it's getting worse. It's getting bad. And I'm like, stop. There's hope. There are parents, leaders just like you stepping up, and what I think is one of the toughest jobs to run for school board and making a change. I mean, I'm seeing more people stepping up, wanting to run, wanting to get involved, parents who care now than I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, no, that's what we need, right? We need that involvement, and that was what was missing before. I know we did, like in Roseville, we had a lot of good school board members.
Yeah.
But it was still, even there, it was difficult to seek change, and so that's why we need to be better organized as a community, as across the state, to ultimately bring that power back to parents and local government.
Okay, so you're very involved. You're working with this. You're getting people, and I know you're doing it all over. But let's talk about some key things. I have kids who go to school in Rocklin, and I think Rocklin did a great job. I mean, we had Tiffany. She stepped up, really led the charge. Derek did a great job. Rochelle. I mean, we had some really great leaders who helped us get open, get our kids breathing, get our kids playing, get our kids learning, and still advocating for the teachers. Who's running in Rocklin right now? I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know everybody, but I want them to know everybody.
Yeah, I think there's a long list.
Who's running that we want to support in Rocklin? That I think.
No, great. Now you can put me on the spot because I'm going to miss somebody because obviously Derek, is running. Tiffany running.
Yeah.
Is Rochelle running?
Nope. I don't think Rochelle's running right now.
No. Okay. Yeah.
We have one more.
Yeah. There's one more. Yeah. And
we're both fired.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it was new. It was brand new. I literally saw it seconds, and I couldn't sear it into my memory.
Yeah.
Okay, but definitely Tiffany and Derek.
Yep.
I know there's one school board where it's the Team J or the 3 Js.
Yeah, that's a great development. Let me talk about that. That's in Dry Creek.
This is a huge.
No.
Talk to them about it.
Yeah, so Dry Creek. Okay, so Dry Creek is when we had some of this. When Roseville Joint decided to unmask, that's the high school there. We saw dozens of districts across the state follow suit. There's one district that did not do that, and that was Dry Creek. Right.
And where is Dry? I mean, a lot of people don't know where these districts are.
Yeah, so Dry Creek is, I don't know if you know where Wood Creek High School is, but it covers that area and goes into.
It's like West Roseville.
It's kind of Western Central.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's over Baseline, that area, and goes into Sacramento County a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
So across those counties.
And so they stayed masked, and what I heard was it's been 10 years since they've had an election.
Yeah, I mean, cumulatively, I think there's the ones that are running, I want to say it's like 72 years on the board. I mean, it's been decades. Haven't had to really seek an election. I don't know if they know how to run an election. Fingers crossed, right, for our candidates. But no, it's basically there's parents out there that were involved, active. There's a really good community there to help try to get those school board candidates elected. And so they're running together as basically an agent of change in that district. I would say to Dry Creek, when they had an opportunity, right, we see a lot of these mandates coming down from the state.
Yeah.
Right. And how you deal with them. And then as a school board member, or school district, there's certain things you can do individually. If you maybe work together, you can fight it. Some things you just can't address.
Yeah.
And so you try to make a bad situation as not as bad as
totally.
you can. Dry Creek went in the opposite direction when it came out with some of the sex ed curriculum, right? We've seen where it's going. It's beyond just the birds and bees and STDs and all that stuff. It's gone pretty far to where I think most
Very
parents,
extreme.
and if you really look into it, it's kind of pretty insane. And if and some school districts do a good job. I think Roseville City has done a good job handling that. From my understanding, is Dry Creek went in the opposite direction. They went further than the state even required on some of this stuff.
Wow.
And so, and they had an opportunity to go in the different direction, and they didn't. And so these parents that are really involved fighting some of the stuff from the curriculum issues to the masks, or just parents' involvement, right? Getting parents' voices heard. One of the school board members, I believe, is a lawyer for CSBA.
Wow.
So, we know where his interest lies.
Yeah, now we know. So we have the 3 J's running. I know Gene's one of them. Do we fill it in? Gene, John, James, Joe? I don't know all the J's. Jason?
Yeah.
So we have Gene, Jason,
and John.
And John.
Yep.
See, you got to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know you have way more information in your head that you're storing right now because you got to keep them all in line, and that's got to be a lot of work. So, so then talk a little bit more. So that's a big one. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know what's tough for me too, if I just want to go back to Rocklin, Tiffany, she has been an amazing leader in that community with the school board. And you know what I don't like is seeing people getting attacked for their faith. Yeah. I think one of the reasons I moved to Rocklin was for the amazing faith culture. And there's people of all different faiths, but faith culture, I think it's so good. And man, seeing people wanting to beat her up and calling her names and being really ugly about it because of her belief system, I just don't have time for that. I don't think that's cool.
No, I don't think so either. And it's inappropriate, but I think it might actually work out for her in the end. So, right, when you get criticized for something where then there's a backlash, and we're like, and the person where the attacks are coming from is the one who ultimately looks bad in that situation. Yeah,
that's right. It's tough, man. And I think it's school board. Like, we have people representing kids. Go out there and do it. So now, talk a little bit about Lincoln, talk a little bit about Roseville, talk about who's running right now that we need to get behind, and then obviously your campaign.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a mix in our area of people we want to support for re-election, and then also to unseat a few incumbents. Yeah. So in Western Placer, we get April, she's running, she was appointed, she's great. Marjorie's running.
Marjorie's running. Super excited about that campaign.
Yep, and George is running too.
Okay.
Those are some people to look out for over in Western Placer. We talked about Dry Creek already. Roseville City, vote for yours truly.
This is a good vote right here.
Yeah.
Now, are you? Okay, I have so many questions. Who's running with you? Are you running to unseat somebody?
Yeah.
Okay, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I mean, we still have a few days before the deadline, so things can always change, right? More people can come in, maybe some people drop out.
Sure.
We don't know what's going to happen. But there is an incumbent who, going back to July of 2020, right? There was a school board meeting that was set to close schools in advance of Newsom closing them. But, right? We didn't know. There was just a rumor that he was going to come up with this plan, but they were going to go ahead and preemptively close them. So I rallied, I did what I could on social media. I put something out there on Nextdoor, Facebook, whatever I can to try to draw attention to this. Held a rally at the office, at the district office. They weren't there because of brand new COVID rules, rules, and so they weren't even there. But it ultimately broke the Zoom, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they had a max of 500 people, and people couldn't get in.
Wow.
Yeah. So that put a lot of pressure on the school board, and there were two school board members who voted to close schools that day. One of them lost a re-election just by a little bit. Megan Krafka, who won in 2020, beat him out, which is fantastic.
And not running again.
She's not running again.
Okay.
Right. And the other one is up for election this time.
And who's that?
That's Valerie Gross.
And so we're not supporting Valerie.
Well, she hasn't entered the race. So it doesn't look like she's going to run. I don't think she's going to run. So I don't know when this will, air.
Yeah, I don't know either. But well, it's definitely not airing today. So when you're watching this, you'll know who's running. But really,
I don't think she will.
You know who to support. Jonathan's who you're supporting.
And there's two other incumbents, Rob Becerra and Alyssa Fong.
And they're good? You're supporting?
So yes, I mean, I've gotten to know, but they both voted yes in that. But there's also another candidate who's also running. Great, now you put me on the spot.
Yeah, look at I like this. I don't remember any of these names, so
you can come back and edit this here.
Yeah,
here. Hold on, man.
Oh,
got the list.
Carrie for Rocklin.
Okay.
So Carrie's the third one for Rocklin.
Okay.
Carrie, and so I'm seeing right here we have the J team, which is this is in Dry Creek.
Yep.
Jason Walker. Gene and John Fensky, Gene Pagnon and John Fensky. I know I get it in here. There's some good ones in here. So, but in Roseville, you're running.
Yeah, so there's two districts in Roseville. right. So there's Roseville City School District, and there's the high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So high school, we have Marla. She's running for reelect. She was appointed in the summer. She's great. And then Pete
Constant.
Yep, he's up now. He doesn't
rock star.
Yeah, he doesn't have anyone running against him. So
and why would they? The guy's amazing. The guy does such a great job.
Yeah. So those are two people you want to support for the high school. So I'm running
100.
Roseville City, right, and we have 5 candidates right there. Some
are all 5 seats open?
There are 3.
3 seats, 5 people running.
5 seats. Yep, 5 seats.
Okay.
So right, so 2 incumbents. You have Alyssa and Rob that are running. You have Kent, who's running. And then you have a new guy who just entered the race, I think is running because of that incumbent that we mentioned earlier. She's not running. And so he's out there. Right.
Okay.
He's had, I think, 7 failed runs recently for some of the elections. And,
Gotcha.
And, like he's ran for Placer County Board of Education. He's ran for Roseville City Council. I think he ran for the high school again. He was a board member, a decade and a half ago, I want to say. But he's he's not a fan of many in Placer County, and he's not someone you want to support.
I mean, the reality is we want people who are, one, going to let parents be parents.
Yes. Yep.
There's deal with sex ed. I mean, we had people who are running for positions who wanted us teaching 4-year-olds sex education, and they wanted to be doing it without parents' involvement. And even in our schools right now, they're talking about, there's still a bill that's out there floating around somewhere where that 16-year-olds can get medical treatment and can get shots and injections and stuff without parental consent or information.
Scott Wiener wants to put this, gender transition sanctuary state, or I don't know what you call it here, where kids can essentially run away from home, come out of state, come to California, become wards of the state, and begin
gender
modifications. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty insane what's going on. And I hate the term, using the term sex education, because, sex education to me, it was one thing. That was, you're in 4th grade and you learned a little bit, and then you go to 5th grade, you learn a bit in 6th grade, and you're like, this is how you get pregnant. These are what diseases are, right? That's not in the same category as trying to go after kindergartners to say, hey, you might be this boy, you might be a girl, right? Yeah. And then let me show you this picture of this adult male dressed provocatively, like we saw in LA just the other day. LAUSD was promoting these, almost X-rated images linked to this male, right, who says he's a female, right, but it's very obvious what he is in these photos, sharing this on their gender and diversity stuff, and it's just completely inappropriate.
Yep.
And so those are 2 different things, right? And so we probably need to use a different name for it. So,
yeah. Well, it's the fact that we're talking about it.
Yeah.
The fact that this is where it's come.
Yeah.
But the hope is we're taking it back.
Yeah.
We're seeing parents rise up.
Yeah.
Being parents, getting involved in their child's education, getting involved in their local schools. The fact that we just had, it came out in the news today, this teacher who was promoting and teaching Antifa, literally because we've allowed things to get so far and off base, they are having to pay him 3 years worth of a salary to get him out of their school district.
Yeah, some of those policies need to change, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about why they ultimately settled on that. I thought he was clearly violating some California laws with some of the stuff
but
he was
we're
teaching.
California. We don't uphold the laws. Only the laws they want to uphold. They don't uphold the other ones.
Unfortunately. So I don't know what the rationale was there. If he's, he could get this 3-year payout and go teach in a more radical area of the state. We don't know.
We don't know
what he's going to do, right? If he's going to be able to teach again. So it's really unfortunate what happened there. And sadly, he was the one who was just honestly not bright enough to don't tell someone about this on camera, right? That's really what it boiled down to. How many other teachers are doing some of this? And again, I think by and large, where we're at in Roseville and Rocklin in our community, we don't have a lot of that, right? Some of the stuff we see a little bit in Sacramento, as we get to LA and San Francisco, we see more of it. But what we want is we want to keep it that way because, you talked about as Placer County goes, so goes California, and so goes the nation, right? Well, we don't want it to be as San Francisco or LA goes, goes California and then goes the nation.
No, we've got to stand up. And here's the big thing. People want to know what their teachers are teaching. Get involved.
Yeah.
Get involved. I constantly say it. Get involved and don't just settle and be okay and shrug your shoulders. We have to make the change because, and I keep saying it, our city, our future. These are important. And I wanted for the longest time to be able to vote someone in to make the change for me. And then I had to realize I can't do that anymore. I need to stand up and get involved. And I've been at school board meetings, and I've been at city council meetings, and I've been at board of supervisor meetings for no other reason than I care and I want to see change and I want to get involved. And the one thing I loved about when I was going to those Rocklin school board meetings is going, wow, these are great leaders. And they're moms and dads, soccer moms and baseball dads and doing their thing. But here they are giving their time and their energy, taking that time out to care for their community. And so big. So where can they find out more about your campaign?
Yeah, so if you go to Zacherson.com, that's Zachereson.com. It has links to all my social media, my campaign, fundraising link.
Yeah, so important.
so important these days.
And so at Zacherson.com, though, they can also get your social media. Yep. And this is why I think it's so important. Yep. You don't just talk about your race. You're talking about all these different races. You're giving people resources to support and educating.
Yeah. I mean, my website is specific to my campaign, but on my social media,
your social media.
Sure. Yeah, so you can go to Reopen California Schools, Twitter at Reopen CA Schools, my personal/campaign, Twitter account at Zacherson. Those I share a lot of that information. So
I find them so informative, and I get a lot of my information from just stealing it from you. So I appreciate that. Stay clever and witty for me, all right? So that I look smart. What is one of the biggest challenges you're facing right now, you think, for your campaign and for schools?
So I think for my campaign, it's going well for the most part, right? Always can use more fundraising. So August 18th, I don't know when you're going to air this, but August 18th is when my campaign kickoff is. I think you can find it
at House of All.
That's where we're gonna have. So there's another Students First. Where the goal is to have.
You're going to a great place. You're going to Pete's.
Okay, yes.
And off of Douglas.
Yes.
And that's amazing.
Did you know that your restaurants are not within my district?
That is really interesting.
So
is Pete's in your district?
It's right there on the border.
But I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter, and this is why. Yeah. Supporting those local restaurants and Pete's, local great people who run and own that restaurant, and I am all about that. And I saw it, and I went, man, I don't need a lot of kids at House of Oliver because we're a little fine dining and classy like that. And pizza's great because it's not fine dining. It's brilliant. But you got pizzas and you can bring your kids in there.
Yeah, that's part.
You grab a pint.
Some of the other venues that you have, out in Lincoln, that's a little bit far for the real.
Totally.
But I would say, going back to some of the challenges and what we want to accomplish, like I said, I started that organization, Students First California. It's a nonprofit, but it has a connected PAC to help get some, endorsed candidates elected. And so more information will come out about that. But
then people can give and donate to that as well.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yes. And so that we'd like to have a kickoff fundraising event. And there we have a little more options, right?
We'll be talking about, I do think it's great. People on the 18th.
Yep.
Coming out to yours. If you watch this afterwards, who cares? Still go to Pete's and grab a pint because they're good people. But then also what you need to do is go to the website, donate, support. And I will tell you, it is so important. I've never known how important these donations are. And people don't get discouraged by a $50, $100 donation. That is huge. A $25 and a $35 donation. They make a difference. Don't get Starbucks for a day. Donate to a campaign. Help it because our schools matter.
Yeah, that was something that I learned in this process too, especially as you get a little more political. If you have the resources, right, and you really care about these issues, it's not enough to just vote, right? I mean, I know a lot of people do, right, and they're not as passionate maybe about all this. But if you say, hey, I really want to make a difference, right? If you have the resources, contribute a little bit financially to your candidates that you feel are going to make a difference. If you don't necessarily have the financial resources, if you have the time, volunteer to go knocking on a weekend or 2 or 3 during campaign season, right? All of those actions, is ultimately what drives the needle. And it doesn't matter how good of a candidate you have, or honestly, how bad of a candidate that you have. Whichever one has honestly the most resources and is able to share that message, whatever that is, whether it's not even true, right? I mean, they're going to put out the best image. They're going to send all these mailers, right? You have to get that out there. And so in my race, I was hoping for a minute there that I wasn't going to have an election. Well, we're now going to have an election. So I will have to be spending money. So I will have to, yard signs. I will be having mailers. Hopefully I'll be able to do some texting, phone calls, a lot of things. So
big stuff.
Yeah. So even if you can't contribute, on my website, you can sign up to volunteer. That's just as powerful, if not more so, knocking on doors when the time comes. So really appreciate that support. And that's even if it's not me, right? I mean, find your candidate and find a way to support them in one of those two ways.
Well, you're one that I'm supporting, and so you should support as well, but get involved. A lot of great candidates out there, and it matters. Our children matter. Our schools matter. School board, I'm so pumped up about it. So check it out. Hey, while you're doing all of this and you're on the webs doing your research, also scroll through, watch some of our other videos, great candidates on there. We're going to be talking about it. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. Know more. When we know more, we do better, and that is so important. And the awakening continues. You guys, thank you so much. Also, check out a House of Oliver or a Pete's or a whoever. Go to Painkillers. That's my son's place out in Rocklin. That's really cool too. But go support local. We need it now more than ever before. I appreciate you. I love you. Until we drink together again, cheers.